I think both Martina and Ray want to respond before I go across to them. To both of them, I just want to make a simple point that your country has a great distinction. Ray and Martina, can I have your attention?
Yeah.
Ray and Martina, if I have your attention, your country. Ray, can you hear me? Ray, can you hear me? I don't think they can hear me, or they're pretending not to hear me. I don't know which way it is. Okay, Anu?
I hear you sometimes and sometimes I don't.
Well, I mean, eventually what's happened here?
Depending on convenience.
All those who are building this case against Devyani have ended up getting cornered at the end of a week. Do you think when you look back at this case that you got your initial assessment of the case wrong?
Yes, they have to look at both perspectives. There could be a woman who could be also blackmailing the diplomat, because I've seen that also happening. So in investigation, they have to take that also into consideration.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're saying that today. Mr. Khobragade, that gives you hope?
What is correct, what I can see, as I was telling you, there's a divide in the way domestic help is looked at. The way America considers is that there's always going to be pressure on them. There's going to be involuntary servitude. As the law says, involuntary servitude comprises of human trafficking. That's how they make this a big issue. Anu, you're making this a case of American values, as if America treats domestic help and domestic staff across the world well. I mean, that's the biggest crying out joke. What I'm saying is that's one point. And the other point they have to consider is the overzealousness of the Indian domestic people to go overseas. That also is a very important point to consider.
Sheshadri Chari wanted to... I have Ray and Martina back. Sheshadri Chari is making a point back at them. Coming to you both.
Hey, Arnab.
Mr. Chari.
No, we're back.
Arnab, the issue here is very simple. I think we are getting too involved in what a domestic maid has done or not done. The issue is not the domestic maid. The government of India and the entire might of the United States of America is not here to look into the case of one domestic help who has tried to swindle her employer, and also she has taken the entire American visa system for a ride. I think the US Department should accept this. This is in that case, we have lost faith in the CIA and its capacity to hold on things.
Is this simply a case...
Going beyond these points...
Mr. Sundaram, if I can come to you...
really care? Does the American government really think...
Yeah, but is this...
Does the American government even now think that they have to act, apologize, withdraw the cases, and go on with proper... absolute amicable relationship with
they have a choice.
With India?
They have a choice.
Does the White House see this as an opportunity to cut off all its relations?
The U.S. government already expressed regret for the arrest.
What is regret?
We need to focus here on...
Regret?
We need to focus actually on what are the allegations.
Regret amounts to...
What are the
Aryama Sundaram is regret enough.
Aryama
Sundaram is regret enough.
Her family is here. Her family is here in the United States because of allegations that they were intimidated in India.
No, 1 second. Martina, I put this... Aryaman is regret enough. The case stays. She continues to be persecuted. There is no action against the... American authorities, no action against the U.S. Marshal. Yes, Mr.
Sheshadri Chari, can I get a word in edgewise?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you talk about words like regret, apology, etc., let's not just forget what the whole issue is about. Look, I'm looking at it very objectively. Let me just analyze for you very objectively what the situation is. A lady goes as a maid, a domestic maid to a consular officer. She fills in a visa form. Whether the consular officer and she are complicit in giving a false form or not is one issue. The fact is she is also a party to that fraud. If there was a fraud, that is being investigated. Meantime, there's a case in India which is also being investigated.
If there had been a consular officer doing illegal activity, that consular officer would have been indicted.
Please allow me to finish. At least let's do one thing. Let's at least have each one say. So, meantime, there is a case which has been filed in India much before all this, which case in India claims, and under Indian law, is a case which would be illegal and unlawful in that you're trying to extort or coerce somebody to part with something, and that case is pending investigation. And what is the American reaction? The American reaction is, look here, this is a case of trafficking. Forget the person who was a co-accessory to this whole thing. Forget about her. So this is trafficking. Catch her, grab her in, strip search her, search every cavity, humiliate her. A. B. That's not all. With great pride, the whole family which is being investigated under the Indian legal system for a crime under Indian law is now, quote unquote, evacuated by the United States.
Shocking. That's the most shocking part.
To save these poor, hapless people. To save these poor, hapless people from this inhuman Indian law. Of course, the American law is very human, but the Indian law is inhuman, and the Americans say it's a human rights issue that we should protect these people from the rigors of Indian law, from the unfair Indian law, and I repeat the word, we evacuate them. Who do you evacuate?
Who do you
Refugees?
evacuate?
You evacuate people who are suffering? Do you evacuate people who are being investigated for a crime under a different country? If India had done it to somebody in the United States, the United States would have cried themselves hoarse and would have screamed about it.
Well, I think it's a...
And yet, this objectively is the situation. Well, I ask anybody to look at this objective situation and say what you feel.
Well, I wish I could just believe that Mr. Pritinder Bharara is a bad lawyer, which probably he is. I wish I could believe he's just incompetent. I wish I could believe that he was not prejudiced and not biased and not just an over-enthusiastic person out here. But the fact is he goes out and actually says we had to evacuate somebody. I mean, who does he think he is, and how can he be issued this kind of statement? What action should be taken against him? Now, for issuing that kind of a statement out here, you're totally disregarding any form of Indian justice. You're aware of it. You're undermining the Indian legal system. You're protecting people who are facing proceedings in India. There is a case in the Delhi High Court on this. Ray, what action in your view should be taken against the people here? You see, apology not good enough. You've understood in this case, apology and regret is not going to be good enough.
Okay, let me go on here. I don't know what's going to happen to Preet Bharara in terms of any kind of sanction. I doubt there will be anything overt. If it gets to a point where it's unsustainable, he may resign. He may take a job with a high-priced law firm. He's in great demand. He's presided over some very impressive cases.
I'm only focused
involving people from
on how
South
he's
Asia.
messed up. Yes.
Well, look, I'm not going to say he's messed up or not. He sure has in the Indian eyes.
How is he
I can understand from the perspective of all of your guests why you feel that he has.
How is he not messed up? No, 1 second.
It's not my point to say he has messed up.
Ray, let's discuss this, please. Okay. How do you say he's not messed up?
Okay.
There is a criminal case pending against Sangeeta Richards in India. There's a Metropolitan Magistrate of South District, New Delhi, who's issued an arrest warrant. In spite of all this, the US government says we've taken a position on this. The Delhi High Court of a sovereign country has gone through the details of the case, even quashed Sangeeta Richards' husband's attempt to level counter allegations against Devyani. What you're doing is deliberately undermining the Indian legal system and having complete contempt for the Indian law. And by the way, may I tell you here that when Obama was here in India, he said, you in India have built the institutions upon which true democracy depends. Free and fair elections and an independent judiciary and total rule of the law. How does Obama believe in the rule of the law and you think that India is some banana republic?
I don't think that he thinks that. I certainly don't think that.
Obviously he thinks that, otherwise how do you evacuate people?
Let me tell you why I will not make a judgment on Preet Bharara.
No, it's not about Preet Bharara. It's about the comment he made.
I don't make opinion judgments one way or the other. I try to find out the facts. You have assembled a very impressive array of facts, and I'm not going to dispute them. And I will say that in the eyes of every Indian that has commented on this, I understand why they feel this way.
No.
It's tremendously humiliating.
One minute. I don't know if Uttam Khobragade is still there. I don't think he is on this discussion. But I want to get Sushant Sareen and Aryama Sundaram back on this. The fact is this. There is a prior legal process underway in India. There is an attempt at blackmail happening in Washington. right? Anyone, even a bad, incompetent, even a bad lawyer will consider it, rightly as the MEA says, obligatory to enable justice to take its course in India in the first instance. America does not own the world.
And justice has to take its course. It has to take its course in the United States. I'm terribly
what
sorry
about
that when
the justice
a
taking its course in India?
Was
What about,
arrested,
no, no, how do you,
Martina, when a Taiwanese official was arrested in the United
Martina,
States, the government of Taiwan asked the official to cooperate with the authorities.
No, please, don't bring it. Let me.
I have one question for Martina.
Yeah, go ahead, Aryama.
May I ask Martina just one question?
Go ahead.
Martina, if there was an offense registered against somebody in the United States which was being investigated, and an investigation is afoot, and India then acted to evacuate the person being investigated outside the United States, saying that, oh my God, they're going to be harassed by this terrible country. The government is going to harass them. The United States is going to harass them. There are no human rights in the country. How would you react?
The reality is that the events taking place in India looked to be retaliation against this victim and her family.
One minute, Martina.
In this case of visa fraud and labor exploitation.
Martina, that's the most, I'm sorry, Martina, but that's the most hilarious argument. Because by that argument, I can tell you there are hundreds of thousands of cases in India which might, to some incompetent New York lawyer, look untrue. Then why don't you fly in, no, 1 minute, why don't you fly in a truckloads of planes and fly down everybody who is going through Indian justice? Because Uncle Sam thinks that what's happening in India is not right. I mean, this is really an exaggerated sense of
let me say this.
Somebody has.
It looks bad.
No, Sushant Sareen responding here tonight. Sushant Sareen. Sushant Sareen.
There's an article in the New York Times. There's an article in the New York Times alleging that there wasn't. It's not just about the court case. It's about other forms of retaliation against this family.
Sushant Sareen.
Arnab, this
in the New York Times, there's an article today.
Smacks of a kind of racism and smacks of a prejudice which is so deep-seated in these people that they think, that we are something, we don't know what rule of law is, we don't know how the legal system operates. This is this evil empire which actually oppresses people, exploits people, and these are these lily-white people who always follow the rule of law, always do the right thing, which is clearly not the case. So I don't think we need lectures from this lady or others of her ilk on how the Indian justice system works. Just as there might be many lacunae in the Indian justice system, there are even more lacunae in the American justice system, where the richer you are and the more powerful you are, the better your chance of getting away scot-free. Yeah. And the poorer you are and the blacker you are, the more your chances of getting convicted in a court of law. So, hearing these harangues from her and this prejudging of the situation of how the things will work in India, because this Preet Bharara character thinks that he is the most fair guy and their system is the most fair guy. I think this is
as they say,
unacceptable.
As they say, finally, I'd say one thing. Charity begins at home. And America, according to its own report just 4 years back, in 27 overseas missions. In 27 overseas missions, American diplomats pay what is below official poverty levels, it is alleged, according to an official report, to local embassy staff. Since charity begins at home, maybe the American government would consider giving some kind of a hike to those staff who are allowed to live under official poverty levels while working for American diplomats abroad. That's just a limited point. Charity begins at home. Thank you for joining me on that debate. We're following up with debate number 2 after the break.